Overall, I was fairly happy with the theatrical cut of Watchmen. You can watch my review for that on this channel. It had, I was disappointed with certain areas. I saw it a few times in theater. I saw it 5 times in theaters actually, just because I'm a big fan, and really came to realize that it does stand alone. It's a very literal adaptation of the book, but if you just put the book aside for a second and pretend like it doesn't exist, it actually does stand alone fairly well. I've said kind of several times since then that I like it, but I respect it more than I like it. And now we have the Watchmen director's cut, which came out on Blu-ray a few days ago. Significantly better film. I always hesitated before calling the theatrical cut a great film. Be like, oh, that's good. I respect it. I admire it for having the guts to do things you wouldn't normally, want to do commercially speaking, like 3 hour being, well, approximately 2.5 hours and being rated R. I admired all that, but it's still I had some problems with it. I didn't know if I like it, but I respected it. It was interesting. This one I actually really like this version. I think it's a much better film than the theatrical cut. The pacing is much smoother, and not gonna describe all the changes. Do a Google search if you want that, but I'm just gonna go over some of the ones I found most interesting. The first scene they add with the cop shooting at Rorschach. I'm just gonna do this review assuming that you've already seen it. The first scene where the cop shoots at Rorschach at Blake's window and misses him. I didn't understand it. I thought about it. I read some interpretations of it. Oh, he just imagined him or whatever. None of it really makes sense to me. Like it's supposed to be some kind of commentary on how bullets can never seem to hit superheroes or something. I mean, it does set up the cops not liking Rorschach and being after him a little better, so that when he gets arrested, it means more. So some good does come out of it, but overall, I would prefer it not be in the movie. But yeah, you get a lot of great out of Rorschach stuff in here, though. Like, you get the famous line, possibly homosexual, must remember to investigate further, that so many fans like myself were really missing from the theatrical cut. It's great that it's in here now. Probably the character who benefits the most from the director's cut is Laurie. You get after the whole Dr. Manhattan flashback sequence, you get sort of an interrogation scene where they're like, where did John go? Did you have an argument? And first off, Malin Ackerman was actually pretty good in this scene. She was one of the actresses who, in the theatrical cut, I was like, she wasn't bad. She's just, so many of the other actors were so much better. She kind of got outshined. And she was okay. She had a few bad moments, but she was okay. And in this one, she's really good in this scene. And most importantly, this sets up suspicions in the audience that maybe the comedian's her father. I think that even if whether you read the book or not, if you watch this, you'll kind of go, wait a minute, could the comedian be her father? And then it shows her kind of suppressing that, like, she looks away from the camera there. It's like you can tell that it's something that maybe she suspects but won't confront, which is an essential idea. So that now when we get to Mars, and it's like, the comedian was your father, in the theatrical cut, it was just kind of, oh, by the way, the comedian's your father. And it had this very Empire Strikes Back kind of thing to it that really annoyed me. And you had to have it in there because that's what wakes Dr. Manhattan up and realizes he has to save the world. It makes him realize value and to discover value in life again. And now it's not just, by the way, the comedian's your father. In the director's cut, it's something they've been subtly setting up through the whole movie, and this is kind of the culmination of an arc for Laurie. So that whole part made much more sense. That was one of the biggest improvements. Rorschach's interview with Dr. Malcolm Long, or they call him Dr. William Long in the movie for legal purposes, but it's a lot longer, and one of the main reasons why I think this helps the film, aside from obviously giving Rorschach's character a lot more depth, is that it firmly establishes that this is Rorschach's section of the film. Just like you had the funeral scene and the flashbacks, which are also extended and greatly improved. That was the comedian section of the film. Then you had Dr. Manhattan's section of the film with all the flashbacks, and this is Rorschach's section of the film. It's like their own little mini short films within a larger movie. And because the Rorschach stuff is longer, it's easier to accept that. So pacing-wise, it just makes more sense. Pretty much everything they added on Mars, probably my favorite addition. I love that whole conversation where that's in the book where Dr. Manhattan says, oh, you're about to inform me that you slept with Dan, and she's like, you know that? He goes, no, but you're about to tell me. And they have some crucial lines put back in here. The first one, Dr. Manhattan says, everything is preordained, even my responses. That's so critical to how he behaves or doesn't behave, why he doesn't go around saving the world, because it's like, or why he would act surprised, even though he knows the future or his future. It's because he just sees everything, even human beings, as just little molecules floating around, and he doesn't really understand the concept of choice. And so to him, he's just sort of going through the motions. And again, another line they added: we're all puppets, Lori. I'm just a puppet who can see the strings." Crucial. It completely makes you understand his character so much better, and it makes the story work better. Because why doesn't he just, when you have an all-powerful being, you've got to explain why he doesn't go in and save the day. And I thought that worked very well. Uh, the addition that we were all anticipating the most, Hollis's death scene, is back in. It gives the movie a little more of an emotional punch that the theatrical cut did not have. Now, the scene leading up to it, where the knot tops are saying, "Let's go kill Hollis Mason," it's probably the worst scene in the entire movie. Like, I was almost trying to like it. Like, are they trying to sort of get your typical bad guys, you know? And it just didn't work. I tried to make it work, and it just didn't. The actors really sucked. And but once they get to killing Hollis, what an amazing scene! To me, one of the most important themes in the movie is a longing for a simpler time. That, you know, in that opening credits, you see this really idealized, colorful world, and then when we get to the end of that, it's dark and it's complex and it's lost its innocence. Loss of innocence being a really important theme in Watchmen as well. That's what one of the meanings behind the blood spattered smiley face. But here, by having him sort of, you know, flash back to the old days, then they ultimately get beaten down, it just really hit home for me what part of the movie was about. That sadness. I think that's so relevant today, because you know, Superman is not really relevant anymore. I mean, we're all into Batman, and I like Batman, but I miss Superman and that idealized good versus evil, and that sort of that fantasy. That's really what it is, a longing that we all have, you know, for that's simple answers to complex situations. Like, why can't a guy just come in and save the day? And we don't want to believe that anymore, because of everything that's going on in the world. It's much more about dark, gritty, morally complex superheroes. I believe that someday Superman will be relevant again, but right now he's not. This scene really touched me right there, because I think that's what's going on in the world. So overall, only a few minor problems with the additions in the director's cut. It's a significantly better film. The pacing is so much better. One of the things that kind of occurred to me when I was watching it this time is that the movie really, it's very literally faithful to the graphic novel in many places, but it sort of depresses me to compare it to the graphic novel, because it doesn't capture at all what makes Watchmen an amazing piece of literature, what made it one of Time Magazine's 100 greatest novels of the 20th century. Because this book does things that only a graphic novel could do. And so when I compared the book to the movie, it's like, I admire that they were very faithful in many areas, but you just can't put on film what makes it Watchmen. Whereas if I view it as a standalone film, it's much more interesting that way, and I get a lot more out of it if I do that. It still throws a lot of information at you, but it gives you much more time to kind of ponder its meaning and think it over. This one feels a lot more epic and complete. The first cut was trying to be epic, but couldn't, and this one feels much more complete. It makes the point so much more clearly. I really respect this movie because it's not a movie that's designed to entertain you in the traditional sense. If you follow what's going on, if you approach it from the perspective of what does this movie mean, what is it saying about politics, what's it saying about America, what's it saying about superheroes, what's it saying about that whole who watches the Watchmen, and that whole idea of enforcing your own version of justice on the rest of the world, which is very relevant to what's going on in the world today. Much better, instead of making a movie set within the context of the war in Iraq, it's much more interesting to do a Cold War setting and say that reminds me of the war in Iraq and the issues we're confronting today. So I like that it's not designed to entertain you in the sense of, throw special effects at me and keep my brain occupied for a few hours. If you really try to approach it from what does this movie mean, you'll find it very interesting. It has a lot of interesting points to make. Commercially speaking, the movie is suicide, and that's why it didn't do well at the box office. It failed, but for the best of reasons, because it has the balls to trust the audience to not get bored because they're not blowing something up every 5 minutes. That trust was not necessarily good, because most audiences are like that. Look at frickin' Transformers 2. This is a movie that doesn't pander to the morons and small children. Who are if you are not willing, there are certain movies where you can look at them analytically and you'll get more out of it that way, like The Dark Knight, but can also be enjoyed as just a piece of entertainment. This movie, if you don't look at it analytically, if you're not trying to figure out what does this mean, you're going to be really clueless. And I really, really admire that. And that's why I enjoy this film. I hesitated to call the theatrical version. I hesitated to call it a great film. This one, I'm going to do it. I'm going to call this a great film. Not that it doesn't have its share of flaws, but I really, really respect it.